Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to learn a very popular attack in ethical hacking called man in the middle. So I'm going to explain what is man in the middle and how hackers can use it in order to steal data from victims. And later on, we're going to see how to do that in the following lectures. So suppose that you have a router in your home or in your work or anywhere. So within that router, we have two devices connected. So we have a hacker machine, which is a Kali machine, and we have a victim machine. So generally, they send their request to the router, and router sends to the request to the internet and gets back a response and forwards that response to the individual machine. So hacker machine connects to the internet with the same way, right? They send a response, they send a request, and get the response back from the router. But there is a vulnerability in this system. We have something called ARP. It actually stands for Address Resolution Protocol. But there is a vulnerability regarding to that system. We generally use this ARP thing to ask for MAC addresses. Okay, so router can send an ARP request to the individual devices saying that who has this IP address, okay, who has 10.02.15, who has 10.02.1, who has 10.02.5. So router can match the IP address with MAC addresses. And if this device really has the IP address of 10.02.15, it says that, yeah, I have this IP and my MAC address is this. So we can have a list of MAC address and the IP addresses. And NetDiscover actually works on this principle. So it sends an ARP request to the all IPs and it gathers the MAC addresses and it shows us the list. And as I said before, we're going to do that in the Python section. We're going to write our own NetDiscover with sending ARP requests to all the devices in the network. And the vulnerability of the system is that if you don't send an ARP request, you shouldn't expect an ARP response. But in our real life conditions, we can get an ARP response even if we don't say an ARP request. So even if this router doesn't ask who has the IP of 10.02.15, this hacker machine can say that I have the IP address of 10.02.15. So if I can get the IP address of this machine, let's say this has the IP address of 10.02.5, and I can say to the router, I have the IP address of 10.02.5, so that this router will think me as the victim machine. So this router will think me that I have the 10.02.5. Then I will go to this machine and I will say that I have the IP address of 10.02.1. So this machine will think me as a router. So I will place myself into the middle of the connection. So whatever this device sends a request, it will go through me. And also responses will go through me as well. So I can see all the traffic, all the packets that are going through me, and I can steal the data of this device and of this router. So I can see the passwords, I can see the usernames of this device. So this is called man in the middle, and we do this with something called ARP poisoning. And as I said before, ARP poisoning is the process of saying this device that I am the router and saying this router that I am the device. So there is a tool to do that, an ARP spoofing tool, and actually in the Python section we're going to see how to write this ARP tool as well. Now let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to see how to manually ARP poison some victim.